Welcome back to another episode of the 8158 podcast, Stories of Sacrifice. Today, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Joy Hutchinson. Joy spent over 10 years as a paramedic in New Orleans before pursuing her PhD in counseling education. She now dedicates her life to helping first responders navigate trauma and grief through counseling, training, and advocacy. In this episode, we'll hear about her time on the ambulance, the lessons she carried into her work as a counselor, and her mission to influence leadership and policy so that first responders have the mental health support they deserve. Let's dive in. Here's our conversation with Dr. Joy Hutchinson.
Disclaimer: this episode discusses suicidal ideations and extreme content that may be triggering to some. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158. Welcome back to another episode of 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Today I am joined with my co-host, my lovely wife, Brianne. She will be joining us on the podcast. Today's guest, we have Dr. Joy Hutchinson. She is a former first responder, so let's give her a warm welcome. How's it going, Joy?
It's going.
Yes, slowly but surely, huh?
Slowly but surely.
All right. I hear your dogs in the background. They're a little rowdy today.
Yeah, they're talkative.
Yeah. They want to be on the podcast. They're like, hey, show my
They
face.
do. And if they were in the room, they would climb in my lap as I'm trying to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, we got 2 months that are like that. They want to be the center of attention. So so we're going to go ahead and get started here. What first drew you into emergency medicine and made you want to get on the ambulance?
So it was kind of accidental.
Okay.
I had been working as an optician and as a waitress and bartender for many years at that stage, and I wanted a different line of work. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, reach out to this ambulance company. They're hiring." I'm like, "I'm not an EMT." He's like, "No. They're hiring for non-EMTs." So I started out. I went in. I did an interview. They hired me, and I started out as one of the non-ambulance van drivers, where I would pick ambulatory patients up and take them to and from doctor's appointments. And I did that for, I guess, about 5 months. And then I joined the next EMT class.
Nice. And how did you enjoy that time that you spent on the ambulance?
I mean, there were amazing parts of it, right? You get to feel like you're helping people. Sirens are cool the first couple of times you use them.
The first couple of times.
Right after that, they're just really loud.
Yeah.
But the camaraderie that was there when I first started was great. I got to have a different scene every single day. Work was never the same. It didn't get boring.
Right. Okay, so you not only had your normal calls, but you had to drive patients to different facilities. Is that what you're saying?
So where I was working was a private service, and we did have some patients that we took by ambulance that were the non-ambulatory patients to some dialysis and doctor's appointments, but we were also primary 911 in a lot of the area.
Okay. And after nursing school, you chose to stay as a paramedic. What kept you connected to that role?
So I went to nursing school because I was working to try to get off of the ambulance. I worked on the ambulance up until a week before delivering my daughter, and a high-risk pregnancy. And while I was pregnant and not getting a lot of grace from my employer at the time, I figured it was time that I work on something different so I'd have a more balanced life with my child. I didn't finish nursing school. I ended up quitting. I had a year left. I was going into my final year with the clinicals, and I just didn't feel like I was supposed to be there, right? As a paramedic, I did all of that stuff already, and I didn't have to ask permission. And as a nursing student, you had to ask permission for everything.
Oh
and
my
it just
gosh.
seemed silly. I just didn't feel called to do that. And at that time, while I was already struggling with not wanting to do the thing that I just invested time in doing, I kept seeing on my social media page another first responder suicide, and it was happening more frequent than usual at that point.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I feel like I need to do something here.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know I was a researcher then, but I decided to create a survey, and I put it out, and I got some first responder pages to let me put it on their page. And in 48 hours, I had 514 responses of people saying how they wanted mental health care provided by people who really understood them.
Yeah.
And in being a good researcher, I said, let me double check this. And I made a new survey, and I put it out, and I left it up for 5 days. And I had 972 responses that time.
Oh, wow.
Saying that they really wanted mental health providers that understood them.
What was this survey? What was the question?
So I'd asked, had you used therapy before? How often have you called in? And these are questions that I still use on research right now. If you've seen my survey that's open right now, some of these questions I repeat to keep a steady pattern across the years. Had they been to counseling? Had they used the EAP? Did they feel that the places they worked for supported them in mental health? Did you know if there's an EAP? Right. So asking if they had been to counseling, what was their experience? And if they would like to see more counselors that have been first responders. And like I said, it was overwhelming results. I can't recreate that today. People have stopped responding pretty much since 2020. Understandably, I get responses, but nowhere as near the magnitude that I got back then. And I printed that off, and I walked over to the dean of the counseling department, and I said, I need to do something with this.
Right.
And she looked at me and she says, you have more research here than most of my doctoral students. And I was just an undergrad.
Right.
So she advised me. I dropped out of nursing school. I took the counseling courses that I needed to get an undergraduate degree in counseling. And then I started the master's program at the same time that I would have been finishing up my nursing degree.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And started doing research with the researcher at that school. And that's the one that I have that's published now. It's sat for a little while, but I've got 2 others right now that are manuscripts pending publication.
That's pretty awesome.
can we back up just a little bit? Because we kind of jumped into the questions. Can you give us a little bit of your resume before we go into more questions, just so people know kind of like what you do?
Okay, yeah. So looking at degrees, I have my associate's degree in paramedic education. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Holy Cross in social counseling. I got a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from the University of Holy Cross. And then I did my doctorate at the University of Memphis in counseling education and supervision. My story is kind of what I've already started laying out. But when I went to school to be a counselor, it wasn't with the intention to get a doctorate at all. I just wanted to become a counselor and work with first responders. And while I was in my counseling program, I kind of saw how most people who were in counseling program, at least where I was at that time, and I've seen it in other universities since, they're not prepared to serve a first responder, right? Nothing against them, but counselors are very gentle and soft, and people need that in general. But first responders generally look at that and go, you can't handle me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So teaching people how to be able to be comfortable with calling a first responder out when they're holding back and you can tell. Whereas general population, you may gently nudge. A first responder appreciates more directness, right? But teaching people about that, teaching them about, some of the terminology, what is a 223 or a 48 or a 72? What does it mean to be on a ladder truck? What does it mean to be on a pumper, right? What are the differences between these services? How do they work together? Things like that. Some of the, the language, right? You can't have a very soft-spoken counselor who's going to cringe when people start dropping F-bombs.
Right. Yeah, we know that a lot of first responders probably cuss like sailors.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious because now I have the letters behind my name, so people seem to think I'm really refined. And I'll have clients that'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak like that in front of you." I'm like, "Really? I could probably embarrass you."
Right.
Let's be real here. Like, I did spend 10 years on an ambulance. We're good.
Right.
You learned all those bad words.
And
Right.
when it was so funny because when I was working on an ambulance, it was like the F word was every other word in a sentence for me.
Right.
And I used to joke and tell people it was an allergic reaction to the uniform. As soon as I'd put the uniform on, the F word would fall out of my mouth like I was getting paid per time.
Well, and to counselors that are trauma informed, specific to first responders, you understand what it's like to see hundreds of traumas in a lifetime versus 3 or 4 or 5 that other people would see or deal with. So that's a huge plus when you're counseling someone who's also been there, to know that they might have had 4 traumatic calls that day.
Right. Well, and another thing that I've found that I've had to explain to people in counseling is they like to throw that term out of, that secondary trauma, right? Vicarious trauma, and assume that that's what first responders are going through. And I looked at them, I said, no, I'm not traumatized from the story of the patient that I picked up. My trauma is my own. It's the sights, the smells, my own fear of something happening to me on a scene.
Right.
I said, it's not somebody told me this. My trauma is my own.
Right.
And I had somebody that that had been working with first responder work for 40 or 50 years. And when I put it to him that way, he looked at me and goes, you just taught me something I've never even considered.
Right.
So it's a different thing. And just getting people to understand that, that's what I'm hoping to bring in. right? I'm probably jumping ahead on your questions here, but like the work that I do is that I'm hoping to eventually affect policy change to make it to where, all first responders have to do a ridiculous amount of continuing ed hours, right? Some of them we could probably test in our sleep, right? Without having to do every single year. But we're never told to take care of ourselves or given the tools or taught how to do it.
Right.
So I'd like to say that part of the job should include wellness, right? Not just check the box, here's a physical, but I mean, true wellness check-ins. But if I'm going to say that first responders need to show up and do that, I also need to make sure that we're preparing counselors to be there for them that know how without making things worse.
And so currently in your role, you do counseling and teaching, correct?
Counseling, teaching, research, go and talk to people who let me run my mouth.
I saw you were going to be at a conference in Tennessee at the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is the Answering the Call put on by the Tennessee First Responder Suicide Prevention Network. And this is the fourth year, I think it is, either fourth or fifth. But I've been speaking at that conference since the first year. I just happened upon it while I was still living in Tennessee. And I reached out and they let me come and speak. And I've just been part of it ever since. And, I've helped in ways with connecting them with some people that can maybe do some sponsorships and stuff. But it's a wonderful time. Those are more exciting to me than going to the counseling conferences that I have to do, because there I get to talk to the people that I really want to serve.
Right. So I kind of wanted to back up here. And now looking back after the last 10 years of being in New Orleans, what were some of the most impactful experiences that you had as a paramedic, and how did those experiences shape your decision to move into trauma and grief counseling for first responders?
Yeah, so, I mean, there were really great high moments working in New Orleans. Tons of festivals, shows, all of those things that I was usually working like floor and front row, and got to meet all kinds of people that I would never know if I didn't know who they were. Got to be front row for so many concerts. It was really a great thing. And I got to see the worst of people, right? We have that backstage show that most of humanity is lucky enough not to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I turned into somebody that wasn't as caring and kind as I could have been. I was good at patching people up and getting them to the higher level of care, which was my job. I was not good at showing the kindness and compassion that people in those moments really needed. So between that and then making that decision to go back to school, like I said, there were a bunch of suicides that were popping up on my social media, but we also had 3 people that I worked with who died in that time. A couple of them were what I refer to as accidental suicide, overdose, right? Trying to numb and got too numb.
Right.
And I just talked to friends of mine that were also working and realized all the trauma that we were all carrying, which I didn't get that front row seat to that until after I gotten out and was in school. That's when they started telling me. And it was really like, wow, we could have all been helping each other, but we were all too afraid to say it on the job.
So why do you think people were afraid to say it on the job?
Oh, I can tell you why they've told me. And that's one of the ones that's waiting to be published right now, is they're afraid to be seen as weak by their peers,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always the story of the person who got fired for seeking help. And there was one of those that was in the organization I worked for, but they didn't want the people that they were working with to think they weren't strong enough to have their backs on the job.
Right.
That was more fearsome to them than who they knew they turned into.
Wow. It's pretty sad to know that, it's your first responders and, the higher ups got to understand and know that you see a lot of traumas and it affects the human psyche. So why wouldn't they want their employees or uh, the people that are under them? Why wouldn't they want them to get that help?
I don't think it's that they don't want them to. It comes down to, honestly, money, right? As long as they're not mandating it, they're not required to pay for it. That's how it is in most states, right? A lot of states, if you're mandating it, you're on the bill. And it's that, oh, well, how we can't afford to do this. So one of the research pieces that I'm working on right now is looking at that side of things. I'm working with an economist and I'm trying to collect data from departments. And I have a couple that are interested and say that they're working to get it through the higher ups so they can share this information. It's nothing that would be damning to a company or a department at all, but I want to be able to use their numbers to show them how much it's actually costing them versus how much it would cost them if they were paying for mental health care and making it a part of the job, right? Hopefully I can get that. I mean, I can do some numbers just of finding out what the averages are at different areas, but I'd rather have real numbers because that's when they'll listen, is when it's their numbers looking them in the face.
Right.
Right.
The goal of that research is really simple. It's not to hurt anybody, but once I run the numbers and I compare these costs and I'm able to, and it's part of a much bigger project, but the departments could use the findings from that to apply for grants, right? So it could help to seek funding as well, additional funding out
Right.
there. Overall, the real cost is even bigger than what I'm going to be able to tell them because let's be honest, how many departments get sued every year?
Right.
Right? If we had a more mentally fit force out there, people tend not to want to sue people that they liked.
Right.
And like I said, for me, my own personal experience was that I was doing just fine with taking somebody and keeping them alive. I lacked the kindness and compassion that they needed too.
Right.
When we talk about burnout, I always joke and tell people, I was so crispy, it was almost ash.
Wow. That's pretty burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did I do? What all first responders do. I worked extra, more overtime.
Right.
Right. And it's about money.
Well, and it's, I'm glad you're doing this research because, first responder departments are so underfunded as it is. And so for them to even think about, oh my gosh, if we have to pay for this other thing now, like we just can't do it. But I'm glad you're doing the research and running the numbers, because it really could be, pennies on the dollar difference for them losing.
It could be cheaper.
It could be cheaper. It could
Right.
be
In the long
cheaper.
run, yeah.
For losing people. People are calling out sick all the time. The turnover is so high. So is that, and then also training a new person. I mean, how much is that costing?
So that's what I'm looking at. I was like, how much is it to train a new recruit, right? How much is your average salary? I don't need everyone. Just give me an average salary.
Right.
How many days a year are being lost from being called in sick? If you have an EAP, how much does that cost you annually? And then what is the lifespan of your employee, right? So the research out there shows that the average lifespan of a first responder is anywhere between 3 to 7 years.
Wow.
So are you even getting your return on investment for how much it costs to train?
Right.
No, not even close.
Most departments will pay for them to go to EMT school, correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
paying for this.
So I did my EMT school. Now at the time, the state, and they probably have one again right now, but the state had a grant because they were critically low. And then when I did my paramedic school, they had a program where I went to school and then I had to stay employed with them for at least 2 years, or I had to pay them back. Right. So I did mine with no cost out of my own pocket up front. But the company had to pay for it, right?
Right.
And luckily they had me for 10 years. But at the same time, had I been more mentally well, not so crispy, would I have ever looked for a different job? Probably not. I wouldn't be doing what I am today for sure. So I do believe that all things happen for their reason and design.
Yeah.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm just one person. I know half the people that I used to work with don't work there. Most of them left the field, or maybe they got a job in something. I know a couple of them got a job in these like infusion clinics. I just start IVs all day.
Jeez.
They're like, I get paid better than I did as a paramedic, and I just start IVs.
Wow.
No danger.
Yeah.
That's crazy. With your unique perspective, with your background in that field, you see about 10 clients a week. What are some of the guard variety struggles from first responders that you see on a regular basis?
Most of them are heightened anxiety, right? Do not know how to turn that off. And that is, the body's natural response. You can only turn that on switch on and leave it on for so long before it's hard to turn it off, right?
Right.
But it's all trauma related. It's the repeated exposures. A lot of people think, post-traumatic stress, well, they're built different. Well, we have a higher tolerance generally, right? Our window of tolerance is bigger than maybe, the layperson across the street. But we're not inhuman. We're not superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know which call is going to be the one that just really triggers longest. It may be on your first day. It may be that you're 25 years into the job before you hit that call that's your breaking point. Right? And I've worked with quite a few who came to me at the end of their career, 3 years. And I had one that I worked with who was 2 years from retirement. And we literally worked to get them to survive to retirement.
Wow.
Right? They had a countdown on their phone. But it's the anxiety. There's the family trouble that's going on. Most commonly, first responders don't want to tell their family members about their bad day, right? Understandably, we saw some crap out there that humans shouldn't see. And why would we spread that to our family? But the problem is we don't relay that it was a rough day. I'm not going to tell you about the call, but I just need some time. I'm not angry at you. I love you. They don't say that. What they say is, I'm fine. Just let me breathe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then their partner is internalizing it like, oh, they're upset with me.
Right.
Right. So we've got the relationship issues. A lot of times it's coping with alcohol. Right. There's some depression in there. But depression isn't usually the biggest factor for most of them because they feel that there's a sense of purpose in what they're doing. Right. And when you feel like you have a purpose that helps, the biggest depression I see is those who are retiring or have been retired or had to stop because of an injury or something. And then they feel like nobody cares anymore. So they're alone.
Wow.
One of the questions
So
I always
basically-
ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the questions I always ask when I speak at this conference is like, how many of you hang out with people who are non-first responders? And in a room full of 200 people, I might see one or two hands go up. How many of you hang out with first responders only? You see about half the hands go up, and then I go, how many of you don't hang out with anyone? And there's the rest of the hands, the majority. We self-isolate, and that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that you worry about the most, I imagine.
Yeah, well, not just that, but I mean, there's some truth to the when somebody commits suicide, it's the one you don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy that I had worked with a few years ago who I got the call that he had committed suicide. And I mean, it gutted me. He was, when I was still on, I hadn't seen him in a few years because I left New Orleans and I was working on my doctorate still. And, but he was the guy who always came over and was like, hey, how are you doing? Making sure everybody was okay, gave the best hugs, right? Happy-go-lucky, cracking a great joke. And here I am doing this work. And then I get the call that he had committed suicide.
Jeez.
It's just masking it.
In the past, I think it was 3 years, 2 people that I worked with, cared for deeply, have committed suicide that, you know, I'm just like, here I am.
Utilize me. Yeah. I mean, that's really, we're really trying to kind of push that, like, let's break the stigma. Let's, it's okay not to be okay. You're not alone. We really try to push that on our podcast and our social media because, you know, no matter how many times you say it, there's still going to be somebody out there that, you know, isn't going to want to talk about what's going on or they feel like they're the only one. And I really
And
hope
that's the hope that, you know, all this time that I go out and I talk and anybody who'll listen, right? You're not alone. It does suck. It can get better. We just need to like really talk to each other more. I think the idea of talking about mental health, the stigma is generally way better than it used to be, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not as bad. And we have the problem that, oh, no, you should get mental health. I'm good.
Right.
Which is hilarious in its way, right? When I work with people and I tell them, look, I may not be the right counselor for you, but I will tell you this. When you're shopping for a counselor, ask them if they have their own counselor. If your counselor doesn't have a counselor, get a new counselor.
Right.
For two reasons. One, that means they're not taking care of their own shit and they may bleed on you. But two, why are they peddling something they don't believe in?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I always wondered about that. Counselors actually got help.
Yeah, it's harder. So like me being in the university system, it's a little bit more difficult. I always have to find somebody like on the other side of the state, right? And having moved, it really sucks because then I have to find somebody new each time. I had a great counselor in my last state. I haven't found one here, but that's that's a different story, right? I've only been here less than a year. And it's on I've gotten my kid into counseling. I just need to get my own. But counselors finding a counselor who is willing to work with a counselor, that in and of itself is difficult. Like I'll see counselors, but I also I see first responders. So
right. So you got the double whammy going there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I primarily see first responders. I've had, lawyers and judges and doctors and other therapists throughout the years also seek me out because I'm open to working with people who have a high stress career.
Right. Definitely.
I imagine it's difficult as a counselor to find a counselor that you don't feel like is a conflict or, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, values conflicts, right? And I tell students this all the time. People will look you up. Be careful what you're putting online. Right. That's one of the other things that, like, for me, makes it hard because I'm going to look up those people and see if they've said anything negative about first responders. Because if they've publicly stated it, I don't want to work with them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why you would want to work with somebody who is negative towards the people that are out there helping people and suffering in silence.
Yes. And that's the hard part. And it was funny because I was just at that conference last week and one of my students who graduated last semester, in the spring, came to my presentation and then she messaged me after. She's like, Dr. H, I had never thought about any of those things that you talked about. I'd never considered this as a special population in that way and how different it was. She's like, you really opened my eyes to something completely unthought of, right? I just started here in January, so they had only had me for one semester.
Right.
But she's like, I'm going to be looking more at this now. She's like, yes,
pay more attention. Yeah.
That is the purpose.
Yeah, it's always nice when you make that impact. People are listening because you just never know if they're listening sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people listen just to respond, right?
Mm-hmm. Or they just listen to pass the class.
Yeah. I'll just write this thinking that that's what she wants to hear. And I don't. I want to hear what they have so I can tell them whether or not they're doing it ethically.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to roll into my next question here. You're training leadership and staff. What kind of policy changes are you hoping to influence?
Yeah, so I talked about it a little bit. A lot of departments and agencies have what they're calling proactive wellness, but it's still reactive, where they have peer support groups and they have an EAP and maybe they have insurance that covers mental health, but they're only being used once somebody shows signs or after they've responded to a call that should have some debriefing.
Right.
Right. So those are still reactive. My goal is to create a truly proactive approach, right? Where as soon as you're hired, mental health is part of your continuing ed. You need to go in and start establishing care. I'm not a big fan of the embedded therapists, the ones that work for the departments, simply because people don't trust them. And the counseling and therapeutic relationship is all about trust, right? I'm looking more at identifying therapists who do the work for first responders, who are familiar and have a good reputation, right? But making this a routine part of your job. So that way, from day one, you are learning appropriate coping skills, right? How to just take and do a 2-minute recentering so you can go to the next call without being already on high alert from the last call. The goal is to make that part of the job, those policies. Like I said, the other side of it is that, I realized if I'm asking first responders to go to therapy, we've got to have therapists prepared.
Right.
But on the leadership side, what I've done is I've gone and now I'm trying to make it a specific curriculum, but I've just said, hey, can I come in and talk to you? And I've had a couple of places that allowed me to come in. And I just talked about how they recognize when somebody is struggling, right? Teaching them some of the things that they should be looking for. Because I think that leadership has to be the one doing this, not in a way of like you're in trouble. But in all honesty, if leadership doesn't care about me, why do I care about me?
Right.
So teaching them how to recognize and just say, hey, let's chat. Not in a you're in trouble, not punitive, but like, I want you healthy because I care.
Right.
Especially if leadership is also doing some of these wellness things, they can talk about then how it's helped them. And that would really be where the buy-in comes in.
Right.
Right.
Lead by example.
Right. One of the things that, in counseling, we always talk about is modeling, right? I can try and tell somebody to calm down in a session room, or I can just be calm and show them, and it calms them.
Right.
Well, one of the great things about what you're trying to do as far as being proactive is that will hopefully decrease the stigma even more because they'll get it right from the jump. So they won't be afraid to, when they do have a traumatic incident, say, hey, I'm not okay. I need to talk to someone, because they've already been doing those things.
Yes. Yeah. So it helps to have that relationship with a counselor or therapist right on the front end. So when something happens, they don't have to go, where do I go? Who do I call? How do I find them? Right? They already know. And then the other side of it is that they don't have to worry about being found out that they're seeking therapy because everyone's going. Right? What I'm proposing is that it's done 4 times a year, a quarterly check-in. right?
Pretty reasonable.
Right. I mean, we take our cars in to get an oil change.
Right.
This is like an oil change for the brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Let the gunk out,
Right.
freshen it up, and then you're ready to go out there without the engine blowing.
Right.
But we do this quarterly. If they need to, that's reported as part of their job. Here's the sign off that I showed up for my quarterly session. If they want to be seen more because something in life's going on, that's between them and their therapist.
Right.
Right. But it's never a fear that somebody's going to see me walking into a therapist's office. Right. I'm not going to get in trouble for doing this. And I mean, that's a real thing. While I was still in person in the Memphis area, I had, people that worked for the police department that would go and get cash out of the ATM so they could pay me in cash so there'd be no electronic tie externally.
Jeez.
Because of fear, right? A lot of therapists who work with first responders, if they have the way to have them in a different waiting room or entering through a different door than the general population, they'll do those things because of the fear, right? Think about their fear isn't just being found out by their bosses, but sitting in a waiting room that someone they arrested may be sitting in across the seat from them. And then that can be used in that person's court case.
You're right.
So there are a lot of different ways that as counselors, we try to serve to make it as comfortable as possible. But the need is there. We have to do better.
Definitely. There is a great need, and our first responders getting help with their mental health, especially dealing with a lot of the traumas that they go through and how many they see in their entire career. Hopefully one day the stigma will be broken and that these things, we wouldn't have to be so taboo.
Right. And, it's great. There are a bunch of, small groups or small people like me and y'all who are just doing what we can to get the voice out, right? And we're all making impacts in our way. My hope is that we start doing better at coming together like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's time, when people like me, and there's a couple of other people that I'm working with who do similar work in the higher ed realm, who have the first responder background also. There are a few of us out there, not a ton, but there are a few. We're trying to put the research side, but when it's time to stand in front of lawmakers and say, this is what we need, there's a lot more power with multiple voices.
Right.
So my goal is to see us all come together and unite. None of us are going to get this work done alone. We are all just putting a brick in the road and paving the way, right?
Yeah. That was one of the things that her and I talked about in the beginning, was wondering how we can make this legislation, like, get this passed through. What do we need? We need statistics. We need to get some background. We need to get this and we need to get that. One of the ways that we've started getting is like getting in contact with people like yourselves and having guests on here, therapists and stuff like that, and trying to get our first responders help. But getting to know more statistics behind the job and what happens behind it. I mean, it's important because, these politicians, they want stats.
They want data and they want dollars.
Yes, they want all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I went into the PhD program. I never wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a counselor working with first responders and pushing to change policy. But lawmakers, they really like letters,
Right.
right? They like those letters behind the name and that clout. So that's what I did. And I'm in higher ed. I do enjoy teaching. Don't get me wrong. But I'm in higher ed because that is where I get the ability and the resources to do the research, right? Needing an IRB to show that I'm protecting human subjects and I'm not just doing something by the seat of my pants. Trying to have somebody who can help me try and find grants to fund some of this research that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I haven't been successful in securing any yet, but I'm working on it. And then the programs that it takes to run these analyses are expensive. These are things I wouldn't be able to fund on my own, and I wouldn't have the time to do it if I was just practicing full time, because just to pay my bills, I'd be working full time and then I'd be too tired to do the research.
Right.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
Well, if there's anything, I mean, we don't have a huge audience, but if there's anything us or our audience can do to help with your data, whether that be, spreading the word to each person's own department to reach out to you or
Absolutely. So yes, right now, if anyone in a department is willing to share, like I said, the data that I'm asking for has nothing private, right? If you're in a public organization, it should be a public data. It's just their websites are really hard to navigate and it takes a really long time for those FOIA requests. But if I can get an audience, then it goes straight through without me trying to figure out how to navigate their websites because they all hide it in different places. But if I can speak to them, if they're willing to speak, then I'll explain to them what it is and how this data can be used to help their departments at the end of the day. There are a lot of grants out there, even now where we've got less grants because most of it got shut off by the federal government as they're working through it. But there are a lot of grants out there that are for departments for mental health. And the data that I'm looking to run would help strengthen their request for those grants.
So what's the best way to I guess, get a hold of you if there's people that want to reach out and give you their data?
Yeah, so if they just want to Google me, right? I'm with West Virginia University, and they'll find me that way, in case they don't have a pen while watching this. But my contact information is on there. But if they want to reach out to me, I've got the Facebook page that I do run, which is the First Responder PTSD Research. I kept it very simple and very direct and straightforward about what this page is used for. It's for me to put out research, disseminate research, and to reach an audience for those purposes. And in between, I post, helpful tips in recognizing different aspects of mental health and mental wellness and how they can improve it. And then they can also email me. It's Joy, Hutchinson, HUTCHINSON at mail, MAIL, .WVU.edu.
And we'll put all that in our episode description as well, so that they can
That's why I figured if they don't have a pen to write all that down, they can just look me up at WVU and find me very easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked to a lot of people, and you're doing law enforcement, fire, EMS, and dispatch?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we've talked to
I
a lot
see
of
all
people.
services. I also see military.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we've talked to lots of people in all those different designations, so I'm sure that they would be happy to reach out and help.
Yeah, I come from a full service family. I'm serving now as a counselor and as an educator. I've served as a paramedic. My husband served in the Coast Guard. My son is serving in the Army right now. My grandparents, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my uncles, my father, all military service.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny happenstance, once I became a EMT, my grandfather was like, "Oh, that was my MOS in the Air Force." I was like, "No, I didn't know you were a medic in the Air Force. You talked about being in the Air Force, but you never talked about your job in it."
Right.
So it was always in my blood.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny how when we look back, we find all these connections that we never realized we had. After we started this podcast, Rico started thinking back and was like, "Oh my gosh, I have this person that was this and this person that was that," not even like realizing it before until we started talking about it and thinking about it.
Yeah. Both grandfathers were in World War II, Marines and Army, and then uncles in the Marines and the Navy, and my cousin was in the Army, and my had a grandfather who was my great grandfathers were in World War II, and my grandfather was a police detective. And
it's all there.
Uncles in Vietnam, so brother was a Marine. Yeah, my dad was a firefighter.
Just covering all the branches.
Yeah, you don't realize what you start thinking about, but it just goes to show you.
My mom was a nurse. She did nursing, so before she got hurt, she hurt her back.
Exactly where you're meant to be.
Yeah,
it all plays out in its way it's supposed to, right? We often wonder, like, why is this happening in my life? And I used to be that person, like, while I was a medic, even, like, why is all this stuff going on? Now I look at things and go, okay, what is this trying to teach me? Like, what is it preparing me for?
For this one moment.
That's right.
Arrived.
To be here.
Right. This moment that has happened.
Right. And we're going to make this huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a few people with, pages that I'm friends with, and we could share this out there.
Yeah. That's kind of what we're trying to do, along the same lines as we're trying to get it out there so that it can be heard. And then hopefully we can affect change in our way,
Yeah.
Right. We get all of the voices, right? Because we need these voices, these stories. The manuscript that I have pending right now, that's a qualitative, right? Which is all about stories.
Mhm.
So that's what that research was. I collected the experiences. It wasn't multiple choice. It wasn't a survey. I sat down and interviewed because that is important too. We need those stories to drive home the other data.
Right. Well, we definitely have a lot of those, and the vast majority of them have mental health issues. Quite a few of them contemplated suicide and attempted others. I mean, it's sad,
I mean, that
and
was
that's
even
kind
part of
of
my story.
yeah.
Even
Okay.
I was, before I made the decision, before, at my lowest point in my career, I was sitting there with my gun in my hand, thinking
Contemplating,
about
yeah.
eating it. And another reason of the path that led to this was I didn't know how to figure out where our EAP information was on our website. And I had reached out directly to our mental health person for the company. And they responded to me about 3 months after saying, "Oh, I don't know how I missed this email."
3 months
And
later.
I responded back, "Well, at least you can know I'm not dead."
Oh my.
Right.
Right? I was very bitter.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
be too.
I mean, we just talked to a girl that's a EMT the other day, and she had she was Baker acted twice, and one of the things she said was, I don't think I was trying to die. I just didn't want to feel the pain anymore, and I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah,
So
like you
that is
said
what
before,
suicide
numbing.
is.
Right. She was just
Suicide is
numbing
not.
herself. Yeah.
Suicide is it's not that I want to cease to exist.
Right.
It's not about wanting to die. It's about not wanting to feel that pain, and
Mhm.
nothing's making it go away, and I don't know how to make it stop. So when I talk with first responders that are struggling with these thoughts, I'm not looking to instantly hospitalize them. That's not the key. But I ask them, okay, so let's describe it like this. If that thought was a voice in your head, is it at a whisper or is it at yelling? How loud is that voice right now?
Mhm.
And that's how we gauge things. Because if it's a whisper, we've got time.
Right.
And if it's yelling at you,
If
then
it's
you're in
yelling,
trouble.
let's look about what supports do you have at home? Can we please involve them?
Mhm.
Right? If you don't have any supports at home, we need to really look at a higher level of care until we can get it to a whisper.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, what matters is that you're still here to talk.
Right. Yeah. It's always good for them to know that they always have somebody to turn to,
Yeah,
especially somebody that's not on the payroll with their department.
absolutely. And, when it comes to the higher level of care, there are a few places, not a lot, but there are a few places that are first responder specific. So I'm not going to send them to the local hospital if I can avoid it.
Right.
Right? I'm going to get them on a plane to these places that are designed for first responders. Right? And these are like, I can pick up the phone and make that call, and they will have them a flight booked within 24 hours.
Wow.
So, and it's only first responders in these facilities. They're not with the general population. It is
That's
first
good.
responders.
That's great.
So I'm looking for what's going to be best for them.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm glad that you have included teaching as part of your career path, because we always need more counselors that are trauma informed for first responders. I mean, there's just, as you know, there's not very many. So the more that we can train and make known that there's these available resources. So it's
Yeah. And there are some of us out there. We're slowly but surely, trying to take over higher ed. I tell all my first responders who are like retiring, I'm like, hey, have you thought about a new career?
Try this one on for size.
Right. Come to the dark side of higher ed.
Right.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, most of them, don't know what to do with themselves after they retire. So why not?
Right. I've got one of my friends who is a counselor educator. They have a private practice as well. And they're a cop that still does work with the police department, regularly. Right.
Wow.
Right. Wow. They're a negotiator for them because they know how to do the talking.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
We just need more throughout the country, and with not being able to practice in different states, I know they're working on changing that, but right now,
yeah. Well, so we do have the counseling compact that has been enacted. They've started taking applications, but only 2 states right now. I don't know why. I don't even know why it's these 2 in particular, because they were not even part of the first 10 that made the compact a thing. But, fine, they're taking applications. One of the things that has come out that we're not sure about is your first responders need to use their insurance, right? Financially. And the compact privileges may not allow us to bill insurance in other states.
Right.
So that's the downside that I think really needs to be looked at in the future. But it is nice that I can, if you want to reach out and I'll be able to get privileges, I still have to apply for each state and like pay a fee. Right. So if I have one person in a state in like, California, I'm probably not paying to get my privilege in California.
Right.
But if I have a department that's reaching out and saying, hey, we'd like to use you for, I'll end up paying for the privileges of the state there.
Right.
It just has to be, because they still want their money and it's not cheap.
Right.
Now,
but will they bill insurance like as an out-of-network cost, or they just won't at all?
So that's based on the insurance companies.
Okay.
And that's where it gets more difficult.
Right.
Right. Well, I may be paneled for insurance companies because my practice, like my license is in Tennessee. So all of my clients are in Tennessee. They have to reside in the state of Tennessee. But I can, let's say I even do a full reciprocity for West Virginia, which is what I'm thinking about doing, so I can have a brick and mortar building eventually. I'd have to do new paneling with the insurance companies to bill West Virginia insurance.
What a headache.
Yes, it's a headache. It's a big racket. Don't even get me started on my beliefs about insurance. I think it's a scam. We shouldn't have insurance.
I agree.
I agree 100%. But the thing that's so
I think the only insurance that should exist is catastrophic.
Right.
Right.
But
right.
But it's just interesting that the insurances do that per state, because there's really, I mean, if you think about it, there's really like 4 major companies. There's like Anthem, Blue Cross,
Cigna,
whatever.
Aetna.
It's a racket.
So there's only they're the monopoly. So the fact that they make you apply per state is just crazy, because they're in all the states.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Same main company, but I have to get different ones because it's Blue Cross of Tennessee, Blue Cross of Louisiana, Blue Cross of Texas, and that's how they get you.
Yeah, and I think Blue Cross is actually pulled out of Kentucky, so we don't even have it here anymore.
And Blue Cross has been one of and at least in Tennessee, I know that for a minute there, I don't know if they're still doing it because I don't take Blue Cross right now because I've done this stuff and then I get stuck on their website and I don't know what they don't give me any like, oh, you need to do this next. And it's time consuming, but they were like really shortchanging the reimbursement rate.
Jeez.
And it doesn't make it the amount of time that I have to spend, first of all, to get credentialed with them, then to bill. And, insurance companies like to say no as often as they can. Then I've got to spend the amount of time trying to get somebody to tell me why a claim was denied for them to give me less than half of what I would charge if I was doing private pay.
Right.
It's not necessarily feasible for me to do that. So there are a lot of therapists who were like, I'm not taking Blue Cross anymore.
And in the meantime, the person that is holding the insurance is paying probably more.
Phenomenal rates.
They could have just paid you instead of paying the
yes.
premium to the insurance.
Well, and that's why I think insurance should go away. If we weren't dealing with insurance rates, medical across the board, Medicaid, Medicare, short changes, they pay pennies on the dollar. And that's what drives up the cost of everything, right? And the denials. And then people are kind of beholden to going to doctors who aren't even that great that they don't like because that's who takes their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we went back to a completely free market side of things, doctors would have to be better because if not, somebody else would go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you're charging me 5 times as much for the same service that this one over here is charging me, and you're a jerk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and if you go into an appointment and you don't have insurance, you pay less. So how about we just...
Yes. There was one that was talking about instead of doing insurance where we do like a health savings account. So do away with that third party getting rich. And how much we're putting right now, if we started the young out on it,
Mm-hmm.
where most people through an employer are still paying an average of $500 a month, right? If we did $500 a month into a health savings account, by the time they needed to do anything more than a regular physical, there would be tons of money. And the cost for seeing a provider would be way lower because they're getting paid at a regular rate.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my soapbox on the tangents.
I agree with you 100%. I mean,
Yes.
But
we
heaven
do not
forbid
like
if it's too much like right, it's not going to happen.
Right. There's too much money involved. There's too many hands out in the legislation. And
people are getting
pockets are
kickbacks
getting
left
full.
and right.
Yeah,
Right.
pockets are getting full.
While we're getting sicker, we don't. One of the things people talk, oh, we've got a horrible healthcare system. I'm like, well, we have an amazing acute care system. Amazing, right? If something happens, this is the country you want to be in.
Right.
Right? We have a horrible wellness system.
yes.
Even in my counseling practice, I can't treat everything because I can't separate mental and medical health. Right? There is mental health that can come across looking like a physical health thing. You get physical symptoms, right? Most trauma doesn't present as I'm sad and like scared. Most trauma presents as frequent headaches, feeling worn down, GI issues, back pain, shoulder pain, muscular pain, right? That is where it presents. So people go to the doctor. And what's the doctor do? They check things. They say nothing's wrong. We don't know what it is. Here's an antidepressant. Right? On the other side, there are only 4 medications that are recommended for the treatment of trauma. Right? Only 4 medications. But when you go to your doctor and you're dealing with trauma symptoms, and you know you are, but it's coming out as physical symptoms, and they ask you about your stress. They ask you all the things that say, oh, well, there is some stress and depression going on, right? So they'll prescribe the regular generic antidepressant that helps with this. Well, they might give you a little bit of help, but it's not going to be the right medication because you're not telling your doctor, well, I've experienced this much exposure to trauma. And regular doctors, honestly, they don't know that there are only 4 medications.
Just out of curiosity, what are they?
So you're going to put me on the spot here now. Paxil is one, Zoloft. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you the other. Prozac and Effexor. Those are the 4.
Specifically dealing with trauma.
Specifically dealing with trauma-related symptoms.
Okay.
Now, I know panic attacks present as a physical symptom, but like Enrico's example, to use him as an example, he experiences panic attacks that are caused from childhood trauma, but he's not on any of those medications.
No. Because do you go to your doctor and say, I think a medication might be helpful?
Well, he has medication, just not those 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you didn't tell your doctor where it comes from. And I think therapists are doing a really bad job of that too, right? I ask my clients, when was your last physical? Some of the other things that most people don't realize that I've learned from my own experiences and then started looking into is that we have a big problem with vitamin deficiencies.
Okay.
Right? Vitamin panels are not typically run anymore because, well, insurance companies came in and said, you don't need those. Right? Now they'll be covered under your insurance if you request them and if you say, my mood has been off. Now that's a reason to check it. These vitamin deficiencies have a direct effect on mood. Right? Now, I can work with you all day long on mood, but if we never find out that you're struggling with a vitamin D deficiency and we start adding in the vitamin D supplements that would help, what I'm doing is never going to fully fix it. They need to be done together. We can't separate brain and body. Right? So as therapists, I think we need to do, and also the MDs, they need to start trusting that we know a little bit about what we're talking about. But we need to do a much better job of incorporating a whole approach.
Right.
Right. So when I do my work, and it's because I have the medical background first, and because of my own experiences, when I was going to my doctor going like, something's not right. When they finally ran my vitamin panels, like I was critically deficient. My doctor looked at me and said, I've never seen these numbers this low. Wow. It was wild. And taking care of my health in that way helped me to feel better in mood. Right? Yes, I still needed therapy. Right? I had to process the things, but I would have never gotten fully better if I wasn't taking care of those other factors too.
Right.
So we need to come out of our silos. We need to be reaching across the aisle and just working together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I don't always feel good. I've got the back pains and the gastric pains, and when my panic attacks happen, everything, like, my mind goes blank, and then I realize, and I think to myself, I'm not breathing, and then I start freaking out.
Right, and your vision will start to like hyper
Yeah,
focus, tunnel in.
Tunnel vision, yeah, and I feel like I'm going to pass out. And then I
You'll
start
feel the
hyperventilating.
chest feels like your heart's
Yep.
pounding out.
Yeah. Like I'm going to have a heart attack. Does not feel good.
So I used to suffer with panic attacks. I haven't had a panic attack in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Right? Do I still get stressed? Absolutely.
Right.
Do I still have past trauma? Absolutely. Does it affect me the way it used to? Not at all. Right? A therapist can't make it go away.
Mhm.
You'll always have experienced it. But we can work with you to absolutely resolve the symptoms, right? Because you process it. And we can heal the part where it's taking control of you and make it to where you have more control over it. Are there still going to be bad days? Yeah. But there are bad days for people who haven't ever experienced trauma, right? We're not expected to be on this like level plane. We experience this range of motions all day long, every single day. It's just which ones do we sit in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Nothing really groundbreaking when it's just breaking it down and like going, oh, duh. Like that's what's going on. When I went to school for counseling, I would sit in class and I'm going, okay, I felt like I wasn't learning anything because I'm like, well, duh. Right. What I did learn was that there are names for the things that I was doing and experiencing. And I learned a lot better and healthier coping. Right. I remember when I was in school, I would like the professor would say, journaling. And I was like, oh, yes, dear diary, never happening.
Right.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I was always that student that was like, I'm going to do it to prove to you how dumb this is. Here I am all these years later telling people that journaling is really therapeutic. And by doing this in between sessions, it can work magic. And those clients that do it, they come to me and go, damn, you were right. It's like, I know I had the same feeling when I did it.
Right.
Damn you.
Right. But here we are.
Right.
Right.
But obviously the goal with counseling, especially when it comes to first responders, is to not need counseling, like to put you out of a job, essentially. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, to be able to solve those issues without having to need constant therapy for years and years.
Yes. And that's what I tell everybody. Like, my goal is to work myself out of a job with you. Like, I like you and I hope you don't need me. Right? When it comes to the time to say goodbye, we'll have a processing session because it is the end of a relationship. And that is always, something we should acknowledge, right? I'm also going to feel some kind of way, but that is the goal. And I'm always here if life happens and you need to reach out. Like, it's not that you can never contact me again, I'm done with you or anything like that.
Right.
It's that if I've done my job well, you don't need me.
Exactly. I had one last question for you. If you could leave first responders with one piece of advice for taking care of their mental health, what would that be?
Oh, the first one, the biggest one is stop isolating, right? You don't have to share the details of a bad day with your partner, but communicate that, you know what, it's been a rough day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you. I love you. And allow them to also comfort them, right? We need help too. We get ourselves in this idea that like our job is to help people. I don't need help. But we do. We need that human connection, right? In counseling, we say all these cutesy things, and it's, you know, one of them is that you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So allow your partner to do the thing that most humans want to do, which is help someone else, right? Your partner wants to be there for you, wants to help you. You don't have to share the details of everything, but allow them to just love and comfort you. And if you don't have a partner at home, you've got a friend. It may be a buddy you work with because they'd rather sit with you and talk while you're there than talk about how much they cared about you when you're not.
Right.
And when you're not at 100%, then you can't help other people either. So,
Right.
You're dealing with all that. If you're a police officer and you're dealing with all this internal stuff, and you show up to a crazy scene where you have to be able to think logically and on your feet quick, you're not going to be able to do that if you've got all these other things floating around.
Yeah. Right. And it's not just the job that they're struggling with. It's a, you know, snowball effect. You're stressed at work, you go home, you don't talk. Your partner at home feels like you're upset with them. Your kids are on edge around you, right? Everything's happening. You're probably financially struggling because you don't get paid enough, right? You've got some guilt because you're missing family events because you got to work. You know, most departments are critically short right now, and there's mandatory overtime. So all of these things, if you don't feel comfortable talking to your partner at home, you don't feel comfortable talking to your partner at work or a coworker, you've got to have someone to talk to, right?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I'm a little biased. I think that counseling is where it should happen. But there are a lot of options, right? It's just talk to somebody. Don't hold it all in. That's like that car not getting that oil change ever.
Right.
The engine locks up, you throw a rod.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even we have a hotline. I mean, you know, we're obviously not licensed therapists or anything, but if you don't have anyone else to talk to you and you need to talk to someone, call us. You know, it goes right to Rico's phone. He'll answer, he'll listen, he'll let you vent, whatever, you know. I mean, if you just need someone to talk to, we're always here.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I'm that person, but honestly, I go to bed early. I'm older and tired, and
We go to bed.
Send me a message and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. But in the middle of the night, my phone's off.
Yeah. I mean, we have a time limit. Obviously, he drives truck, so he can't be up all night. But 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., you know,
Right.
We're here.
Yeah.
I'm more of 7, 8 p.m. because I'm in bed by 8:30 usually.
Yeah, we're up at 5:30, so we're usually in bed.
I'm up at 5. I've got you.
Yeah.
Adulting, you know.
Right. Which is so weird because when I worked on an ambulance, I was 6P to 6A, and now I'm like, it's dark outside. It's time for bed.
Time for bed.
And during summer, I'm like, why isn't it dark outside? Because it's time for bed.
Right.
No, I love
It's too
because
light out.
the dogs don't go to bed until it's dark, and I'm like, I'm so tired. It's 9 o'clock, and it's like it's not going to get dark till 10. Dogs.
Oh no, my dogs are like coming up to me going, it's bedtime. Why are we not in the comfy bed?
I'm so happy it gets dark by 7:30 now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get really excited at this time.
Yeah.
I'm not happy when it's dark at 5.
No.
But 7:30 is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. Did you have anything you want to ask her or Brianne?
No, not specifically. Well, if you want to just maybe send me an email with like some of the stuff that you want me to put in the episode description, how to get a hold of you, your Facebook page, we'll put all that in the episode description. We'll link it. And then that way they can reach out to you. And then we'll put like a little CTA call to action for, if people want to help out with your data, they can reach out to you this way, et cetera. So,
Yeah. And, anyone who's reached out to me and y'all can testify to this, I will respond. And like I've had people email me, and I've got some that are just like one emailed me not just in the last week about how they think that, at the time they thought that PTSD was something that was kind of made up. It's real for combat veterans, but not for first responders. And they kind of tore into me in this email. And so I responded back, very, very nice. And since then, like they're emailing me once to twice a day to learn more and talk more. And now apparently, they're retired, but they're still very active in the department they retired from. And so they're going back and having conversations with people who are working there. And it's been great. I'm happy to talk to anyone who will let me, flat my jaws.
Right.
well,
Yeah, we did have a guest who compared first responders versus veterans. And veterans, they see a lot of devastation within their careers, like especially during wartime, maybe 2-3 tours, and then they're home. First responders in their entire career, if they work a 10-15 year career, their whole tour is 10 to 15 years.
I think I told you that when we talked the first time.
Yeah, you might have said something about that. I talked to another guest who mentioned that as well. And
yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, the difference between a veteran and a first responder is that a veteran goes to a war zone and they get to leave it. A first responder lives in the war zone that they're serving. They never leave it. So, they're
constantly reminded by
one
every time they go.
One is not less than the other. One is not worse than the other, right?
Right.
It's that it's just different.
Right.
And most first responders, not all, but a good chunk of them also have military background.
Yeah, they are veterans.
Right. So we get the double whammy.
Yeah, we have a lot of first responders that are veterans on the podcast. So
yeah,
I definitely do it. So I props to anybody who does, because it's hard job.
That it is.
It is, right? It's not easy. Like I said, my experiences were mine. I don't use them comparatively to anyone else, because I've had people go, well, you worked in New Orleans. Right. I'm like, yeah, but it's not any worse or better than anywhere else. Everybody has their experiences, and mine are no better or worse than anyone else's. They're just mine.
Right.
You're going to see
everybody has different ones.
House fires, and no matter where you live, there's going to be the same types.
Well, and I think that the rural areas, while they may have a lower call volume, they've got longer response times. They've got to get them further, right? They don't have a level 1 trauma center in their backyard. They don't have 12 hospitals to choose from.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself causes its own trauma. You are all that there is.
Right.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll see you at some conferences in the near future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are y'all looking to come to Murfreesboro?
That's the one that's coming up, right?
Yes.
Oh, we can't unfortunately do that soon. But we are going to the one in February that I sent you.
Yes, we're going to that one in Wilmington.
But feel free, anything that's like within a 6-hour drive of Kentucky, send it our way and I'll look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll speak with my friend Hannah, the one that I told you about that's in Kentucky, because her and I are doing some work together as well. And she has some trainings that she's got going on there.
Great.
So
Sweet.
like I said, there are some of us throughout the country.
Yeah.
You're sprinkled.
Yeah.
Well, sprinkled, even gold dust, when you gather gold dust, you can get a big nugget.
Exactly. Come together, make one big giant bang. I like to call us dynamite instead of a gold nugget, but whatever.
We're just building up for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Come in and blow up the current system and start a new one.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm excited for your research and your data, and hopefully, within the next, short amount of time that you'll be able to make some waves with that, and you let us know. We'll be there with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Whenever this is ready, share it, and I will share it on my page, and I will talk to some of my other friends that have pages and get it shared on theirs too.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they're welcome to reach out. Same.
Yeah, we can even get it in Canada. I've got some friends there too.
Yeah, we have listeners all over. Actually, we've got Brazil, and all kinds of places. So yeah, we're always looking for people to interview. So send them our way.
Yeah, we've interviewed people in Canada. So
yeah, so I'll give them some heads up and see if any of them are interested, and send them your way.
Great, that would be great.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much. It's dark out, so
thank you very much.
Bedtime,
so mine too.
Even though it's the weekend, we're just old folk.
Yeah.
It's a day that it ended. Why? It's bedtime.
Yeah.
I'm doing a grief summit tomorrow that I have to be there at 7 a.m. So.
Oh, well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's time for your bedtime, young lady.
Well, thank you again. We'll let you get to it, and we'll talk to you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was Dr. Joy Hutchinson. She was former EMT. Now she is a therapist. She's got a PhD in psychology. Is that correct?
Counseling and
counseling.
education.
Okay. Counseling education. Okay. But she does have a PhD. She's got a doctorate. So
she has a PhD in counseling and education. She does counseling.
Yes. Exactly what Brianne said. Never mind my babbling. Okay. I mean,
she's a licensed therapist in the state of Kentucky, in the state of Tennessee. So if you're in Tennessee and you're looking for a therapist who is familiar with trauma-informed first responders, reach out to her.
Yeah, but she's in West Virginia, right? Or she went to, she went to the University of West Virginia too, didn't she?
No, she works there.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's licensed in Tennessee currently.
Gotcha. I'm trying to get it straight in my head because everything just goes, just bounces around. Ding, 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 ding.
You talk to a lot of people,
Yeah, I do talk to a lot of people. So, that's like my days, they get mixed up. I thought Tuesday was Wednesday, and I was thinking the week was going to end a lot sooner. and I fooled myself.
Well, if it's any consolation, I forgot that Wednesday was actually Wednesday. So.
Oh, the joys of adulting. Come on. You got to love it. Paying your bills, pay your taxes, go to work. Make sure the dogs are well fed and fat. Fat and happy and slobbery. All right, everybody. That's all we have for tonight. And come back for some more wild and crazy stuff. No, I'm just joking. A lot of our stuff is pretty serious. We're definitely dealing with serious aspects of life, and sometimes we try to keep it light. But
Try to have some levity when you're talking about.
Yeah, we do try to have a little levity in there, because we can't be doom and gloom all the time. I would have a heart attack, and Brianne would not appreciate that.
You can't live life that way. You gotta have some joy.
No, yeah. We want to try to lift people up too. We want people to tell their stories, but we want to lift people up, and we want to bring a smile to their face, and we want to make them happy. So all right, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and God bless, and hope to see you back here once every week. Well, no, twice a week. Sorry.
Twice a week. Wednesdays and Sundays.
See, what did I tell you? I just told you. Getting everything.
It's Friday. It's been a long week. See you on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Yes, Wednesdays and Sundays. Yes, I did have a very long day on Thursday, so that one sucked. But okay, I'll try this again.
Ready, break.
Cut. No. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.